Did you see that in the press? New York Times never even reported it. The Washington Post put it on paragraph 11 of an article that was titled "New Hospitals Bombed in Aleppo." Okay, so the media is playing a very mischievous game here. They're not even saying, they're not even telling us what the Russians are threatening. And so this could, as the Chinese like to say, this could very easily come to a no good end if we don't have sensible people in Washington who restrain our own military.
Thank you.
Hi. So I guess it seems to me from trying to follow what's going on, there are quite a number of different factors and tendencies and factions within Washington, in the Pentagon, in the State Department, in the CIA, and in the presidency, and not all of these are all going in the same direction at the same time. So, like, if Hillary gets into presidency, she's been rattling sabers quite a lot, talking a lot about the threat of Russia, from the DNC emails to her own leaked emails afterwards, talking about the threat of the Russians. And then we come to a condition after the election where she's in the presidency. Is the State Department, the presidency alignment there going to also align with the Pentagon in such a way that you could see a much more aggressive foreign policy come to play?
I fear that that will be the case. All the signs point in that direction. The only hope, really, is for good common sense among the top generals. Now, Marine General Joseph Dunford is not the sharpest knife in the drawer, okay? Witness, when he wanted to get confirmed, he said, the Russians are the biggest threat. The Russians are, they're the existential threat. Well, in some sort of theoretical way, of course they are. They have nuclear weapons, right? Okay. But give me a break. The threat right now, what is that? Well, the threat right now is war with Russia over Syria. And Dunford, to his credit, when one of these rabid Republican senators said, well, General Dunford, why don't we do a no-fly zone over Syria? He said, well, you realize that a no-fly zone would mean war with Syria and war with Russia, and that's not a decision that I should make. Whoa, right, And so even he had the sense enough to say, well, hey, this all sounds really neat, but a no-fly zone, by definition, is going to ship a war with both Syria and Russia. And he tried to so I pin my hopes on that Dunford, not the Dumford who said the business about Russia being the existential threat. And I guess I have to say, before I forget, that yeah, there was Russian imperialism, and there still is imperialist tendencies in Russia that have been ever since, Catherine the Great, for God's sake. But if you look at the history of the last few decades, with the Soviet Union imploding, with Russia on its back, with our oligarchs plundering what was left of Russia after it imploded, then you have to kind of ask, is there a degree of imperialism? Are there worse imperialists than others? And I see most of Russia's behavior as a reaction, first and foremost, to the coup that we, the West, mounted on Russia's doorstep in Kiev, the Ukraine. Now, just a word about that. I've seen a lot of coups, and this was the most blatant, and other people have called it the most blatant coup in the history of mankind, and it was, partly because, as you probably know, it was on YouTube 2 weeks before. God, look it up. Victoria Nuland, Yats is the guy. Yats. So I figured, out of my American experience, a decent respect for the opinions of mankind would have sort of ruled out Yats as the new prime minister. But no. I wake up in the next day, Yatsenyuk, what's he say? We're going to ban Russian as a national language, and we're going to join NATO, or we're going to think about joining. Hello? I couldn't believe it. I wrote an article saying, "Yikes! It's yachts!" So there it was. I mean, it was orchestrated by Victoria Nuland, who also said some very unkind things about the EU. She used the F word when somebody referred to what about the EU? And she apologized the next day for saying F the EU. So the conversation was genuine, authentic as could be. So again, when you see that happen, and you see the Russians saying, well, what's the game here? We warned them that Ukraine and NATO is a red line, and they did. It's in the WikiLeaks document, okay? We warned them about that. What are we going to do about our only ice-free naval base in Sevastopol in Crimea? Well, let's see what the Crimeans would like to do. 96%. Can you believe it? I believe it. They were verified people. I've been in the Crimea. I've searched in vain for anybody who voted against the referendum to rejoin Russia. So that's what happened. Of course, that was used. Everybody refers to modern European history as beginning on the 23rd of February, namely when Putin, by his own admission, convened his national security advisors and decided we have to do something about Crimea. Did that happen? Yes. Had he not done that, would he have been a responsible Russian leader? No. He was provoked into doing that. And that's pretty much objective fact in my view. And so all this business about retaliating against him for not liking the coup on his doorstep is a little bit outstretched, particularly because it's not his doorstep. It's his front yard, through which the likes of Hitler, Napoleon, the Poles, the Lithuanians, the Hanseatic League all come. And so if Washington was surprised at the reaction of Putin to the coup orchestrated in Kiev in February of 2014, that just means that they don't know anything about how the Russians look at their national security interests. And if they do know something about it, they certainly don't respect it. And that's dangerous, because that needs to be respected. The Russians have been through it, and they're not going to put up with a lot more.
Okay, so we have so many hands, but I don't think we have the time for that.
Gentleman here with the
I know, so we'll take 2 questions and then Roger to finish up. Sorry, John. Sorry, others. Okay, so you go.
Quick question. I get the impression Obama is not being a strong president. He hasn't got a grip on his own administration. Is that peculiar to him, or are we going to see more of that in the future? Because the American imperial system, the empire, the whole thing is so huge that it's going to be impossible for any president to get and keep a grip on the whole complex, the military industrial complex.
I think it's mostly Obama. One of my good friends who was the top prosecutor in Guantanamo, an Air Force colonel before he quit, he said, the way I look at it is that somewhere between the Capitol on Inauguration Day, somewhere between the Capitol and the White House, as Obama walked down Constitution Avenue, his testicles fell off. He really hasn't shown much strength, except for one, and that is the Iran agreement. And the Cuba thing, too. So there are always exceptions, but I think he felt afraid. He was heard to comment at one dinner when people were pinging on him for not being as progressive as they thought he was. He got up before dessert and said, "Don't you people remember what happened to Dr. King?" Now, I don't have that firsthand. I have that, but I can believe it, And my reaction to that is, if that's the way he was going to feel, he shouldn't have ever tried to become president. But that's Obama. I don't think it's going to be the same with Hillary. He's going to have a coterie of brass people who are fully in step with her, and she's going to direct them in whatever way she wants. I would love to see a woman president. I have 3 daughters. I've been expelled from the Catholic Church for my advocacy of women's ordination. There's nothing I would rather to see than a woman as president, but not Hillary. Not Hillary. Thank you very much.